Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We resume our interview with Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Ain Shams University. Well, Dr. Hamaki, also in the field of cooperation between Egypt and India, in the new administrative capital which Egypt is establishing, and on an area of 350 fiddans, India is building medical complexes which is going to encompass a number of hospitals and clinics. So how do you see the importance of this cooperation in the field also of health, which also saves the budget of Egypt, because of course the new administrative capital would need a number of hospitals to be established there?
Actually, huge opportunities with the Indian side in the field of health medicines. Because India is doing quite well in this field. India is one of the major exporter of medicine and has a very important advantage in producing the raw materials of India, of medicines. Nowadays, Egypt is referring and importing from India, raw materials for our medicines.
Yes.
And I believe that a very good cooperation can be done in this field, in the field of pharmaceutical and producing medicines with the Indian side by benefiting from both experiences, And India is looking forward to, penetrate the African market and the Arab area, the Middle East, through Egypt.
Yes.
Quite well that Suez Canal is passing more than 200 to 300 billion of trade of India. And from here, the location of Egypt is presenting a very good advantage for Indian. From my point of view, I believe that this visit can be a starting point towards attracting investors from India to come and to invest in the area of the new economic area in Suez Canal, and specifically in the field of pharmaceutical. Why? Because we can have mutual benefit by developing our potentialities. And the COVID-19 actually proved the importance of medicines for the African continent. So we can cooperate with the Indian side toward developing the medicines and pharmaceutical for the African continent with prices quite low compared to what we are importing from Western countries. So these are very important potential of cooperation between the two sides. It needs B2B, it needs more, federal unions and investors should gather and should talk about the potential of investment. It needs a lot of effort so that we can understand what are the points of mutual benefit to be built on. And I believe that what has been addressed in this occasion, that President El-Sisi is looking forward to activate the committee of following and proceedings, what can be done regarding the cooperation between India and and Egypt. This is quite important for us. It's not by only signing MOUs, like I mentioned, but what are the efforts that are going to be done post to that signing? I believe a lot of efforts should be done, and we have to be quite active towards asking the questions: what are the potential of cooperation, what are the fields of cooperation, how it can be done, what are the obstacles that can prevent us from proceedings, how we can monitor and evaluate what we are doing actually on a schedule, on time schedule, so that we can, because nowadays in a world full of challenges, nowadays the challenges are quite severe in the world economy. And when we do that, what is quite important for all the countries that can manage to address such crisis is a regional cooperation. You know, India can be referring to South-South in the area of South-South relation. India can be a very important partner to coordinate our effort with and to develop our economic relations, because $7 billion as trade is quite minimal, $3 billion as investment is quite minimal compared to the potentialities of enhancing our economic relations. So this is what I'm looking forward to be done after this visit.
Yes. Doctor, penetrating the tourism industry in India, especially that this nation, actually, they appreciate a lot culture and ancient civilization. And this is also another important sector to Egypt.
Yes, yes.
So how can we work on this?
We can work on it. Actually, we have something wrong in our, you know, managing for the tourism, you know, file, from my point of view, actually, because we have all the potentialities of enhancing the figure coming from tourism in Egypt. We only received the maximum after COVID and so on, the maximum of 10 to 13 billion dollars. This is the highest figure Egypt has ever reached in revenue from tourism. I believe this is quite minimal, and we have a lot of challenges that we have specified what are the reasons behind this low figure coming from tourism. And one of, you know, the reasons behind that, we are not diversifying our, you know, promotion for tourism and attracting the right tourists, and trying to have tourists with the highest level of income so that we can have more revenue from tourism. India is quite favored by very wealthy people that they are traveling a lot and so on. So if we can catch a percentage of that, I believe this will be reflected quite well. And President Sisi has mentioned that in his speech, by emphasizing that Egypt can attract Indian tourists, and this is a very important, actually, file that we have to work on.
Yes. Yes, actually, Dr. Hamaki, Egypt and India have always been keen on boosting the tourism between each other, the two countries, and also in the field of culture, as you've just mentioned, and especially that India is always keen on coming closer to Egypt from the field of culture, and that was very clear because India holds every year an annual festival here in Egypt, which is called India by the Nile, and that is very important. So it's not, you know, cooperating in the field of economy. It's not just a rule that you are going to a country and tell them, I would like to sign this agreement. No, it's the people coming closer to each other through art and through culture and all this stuff.
Yes.
What we yes, please. What,
you can put your
but
question.
now we would like to move to another field.
I will just want to add, Amal,
Yes.
you know, that we can add to what you mentioned and build on it. Movie.
Yes.
You know that Indian movies are penetrating, you know, very large areas of the Arab countries and doing quite well. And I believe if we can have joint projects with India, it could be very good potential to be studied, actually. I believe that Egypt is having a history in movie industry, and we are not using, actually, unfortunately, in the best way. So I believe that this is an area that we have to study and to develop our relations.
Yes, so make a cooperation in this field. Yes.
So right, Dr. Youmn Hamaki, Professor of Economics at Shams University. Always a pleasure having you with us on the show. And I guess so this we come to the end of our breakfast show for today. Very special thanks to my dear colleague Amal. Thank you all for joining us. And stay tuned for more coming up on Nile TV International.